طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Tonight we'll take some questions inshallah, hopefully by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His kindness, His mercy and His aid. I want to share a few books with you guys bi'idhnillahi ta'ala to help establish and to help strengthen and bolster our Hadith disciple culture. And the aspect of tonight's cultural enrichment will be on tea. Establishing and strengthening our culture of tea. Alhamdulillah, I have three books here. Two of them I received as gifts, alhamdulillah. And one of them is a book that I purchased. The first book that I received as a gift is called Ash-Shay. ثقافات طقوس حكايات. Ash-Shay. The book is called Tea. The different schools, methods, cultures, ways of preparing it, and the different stories pertaining to tea. This book obviously is in the Arabic language, as you can see. The author is Christoph Peters, and it was translated by Dr. Sumar Munir. I'm not sure if that's the proper pronunciation of that person's first name. Allahu Alam, Al-Muhim. That's the doctor who translated the book. This was given to me as a gift, alhamdulillah. And we have a few illustrations in the book. Talks about the history, the background of different types of teas, different schools of tea. Okay? Talks about the country that produced the most tea. It talks about the Far East, the Middle East, and other parts as well, such as Eurasia. Turkey being the sixth largest tea-producing country in the world. It speaks on these different things like this. I haven't got a chance to read the book from cover to cover yet, but I did read the introduction and peruse and skim through the book. It seems like a very beneficial work. On the back, we have an excerpt, and that's the picture of Christoph, the German novelist. Another book here is called Bilad al-Shay. Bilad al-Shay, which means the land of tea. The land of tea. And this author is Wang Shufeng. Wang Shufeng. Alright? Doesn't mention here on the cover if this book, and that it says on the inside, the translator, Saeed it says Al-Hasniya. Saeed Al-Hasniya. Allahu Alam. That's the translator's name. And in there, you have some pictures and some images. Perhaps that's Saeed, the translator, with the original author of the book of the land of tea. And in this book, he speaks on the origin of tea, where it comes from, how it's produced, the different schools. We have all types of illustrations in the book, unfortunately. Halal or haram, all types of stuff in here. Talking about the long and rich history of Camellia sinensis, the tea. Alright, so this is a larger book. It talks about all different types of things in here. The necessary components of tea, the different vessels. It's very extensive. Alright, and obviously it's a huge difference between this book and the previous work. Whereas this is a book written from someone coming from the Far East. In most cases, China or Taiwan. Okay, and Allah knows best. And then we have a Western scholar writing about it. And that's a long discussion with regards to tea, philosophy, martial arts, Zen, whatever these things. And you have someone that's from Japan, China, Tibet, Nepal writing about it, versus someone that's from a Western country and goes and seeks and becomes a disciple and then writes about it, right? In German, in French, in English, so on and so forth. And the same applies to Islam, it applies to Hadith, the Orientalist, and the Sufism, the Arabic language, the same applies, all right? The last book I'm going to show you here is a book that's in English, which is called The Book of Tea. The Book of Tea. Like Kitab al-Tawheed, we have what? Kitab of Tea, huh? And the author is Kakuzo Akakura. This book I found out about through my mother, who found out about it through my father years ago when they were married when he was alive. This is a very interesting book. As you can see, it's a gentle-sized book, very informative, all types of stuff mentioned in this book, similar to the previous two works, but a bit different. This is more surrounding the concept of philosophy, Eastern thought, that type of stuff, the Zen type of stuff, all right? But it does discuss many important and necessary aspects of tea and of teaism, which is useful for the disciple. Perhaps we'll take one excerpt out of the book. It's on page 10. It's the second chapter. It's called The Schools of Tea. The madhab. You have Shafi'i, Hanafi, Maliki, Hanbali, Zahiri, Ahl Hadith, etc. You have different what? Different schools, different madaris of fiqh and different madaris of teas. This is very, very beneficial, especially people who ask these questions all of the time. The author says, tea is a work of art. It needs a master hand to bring out its noblest qualities. We have good and bad tea, as we have good and bad paintings. Generally, the latter. There's no single recipe for making the perfect tea, as there are no rules for producing, etc. There are no rules for producing the picture-perfect cup of tea. There's different types of tea. And this is one of the most common mistakes that I see people who talk about tea. They only look at one school. If you sit with the Chinese, that's it. It's only the Chinese style. You go with the Japanese, they only consider the Japanese style of tea. You go with the British, they consider only tea in the world is the British way of preparation. You go with the Americans, they only want to talk about their style of preparing the tea. Iced tea or southern tea, okay? You go with bubble tea or Thai tea, and the list goes on. Everyone is just kullu hizbin bima ladayhim farihun. They're stuck with their way, and they look down upon the other ways. And there are people who are zealots. It has to be like this, you have to do this, you have to do that. So the author, his opinion, is that there's no one specific rule for every single aspect of the tea. It depends on what type of tea you're making. It depends on the hand. And he clearly mentioned the noblest qualities of tea. Meaning anyone can make it, but there are different what? The different levels of the taste, the color, the aroma, the smell, and then this goes on. The author says each preparation of the leaves has its individuality, its special affinity with water and heat, its hereditary memories to recall, its own method of telling a story. The truly beautiful must always be in it. How much do we not suffer through the constant failure of society to recognize this simple and fundamental law of art and life? Everyone has a different story. Everyone has a different time. There are different leaves, different styles, different ways of making tea. And the same applies to what? Ilm and da'wah and hadith. Your way is good, alhamdulillah. It doesn't mean that I have to do it the same way. I have to say it the same way. I have to present myself the same way, carbon copy of this person, of that person. You know what I'm saying? Everything is different, and this is what we call the concept of what? Formlessness. Time, place, location, person. There is no one scripted plan. So good, I said, well, what's the khutbah on today? I said, I don't know. I haven't given it yet. What's the khutbah on? What's the title to put on the CD? How do I know what I'm going to speak about? Allahu Alam. I have an idea, I have a thought, but only Allah knows what it's going to be on. Or, brother, talk about this, or don't talk about that. Or, what does Sheikh Fulan say about this issue? Or Sheikh Fulan didn't answer the question that you answered. Or, why do you wear this? Or why do you dress like this? We have to break out of this narrow-minded concept that we suffer from for long enough. So, Al-Muhim, these are the 3 books, inshallah. If you guys get a chance to purchase them, I don't think it will be a waste of time. Those who read Arabic and those who read English. And there are many, many other books and works, as well, let alone the practical knowledge that you can only get from a teacher, a ustad and a sheikh of tea. Wallahu ta'ala.
It shows AB Tangier, Morocco. What should one do if the khatib for Jumu'ah is not trustworthy and calls to innovations and wrong understandings? What if it is hard to go to a farther masjid?
Question is from Tangier, Morocco. The imam calls to innovations. He's not trustworthy. He's misleading and misguiding people, and it's difficult to go to another masjid. Try your best to go to the other masjid. If you have to leave earlier or pay a little extra money, Allah Azza wa Jal will replace whatever you spend and put blessing in your time and in your effort. That's what you should do. You should not miss Jumu'ah under any circumstance. If it's too much of a fitna and too difficult, then at least one would say go late. Go late. Before the imam finishes the khutbah, and sit for that brief period of time and offer the raka'at with the imam. Okay, that's not the best solution. Alright? You should go somewhere else if you can. And if not, maybe you need to speak to someone. Find another masjid, to talk to someone who's in charge. See about finding someone that can give the khutbah in another location or making another masjid. Or give advice to the imam. Even though in most cases, many imams are pompous and very hard to be spoken to, especially in a place or country in which there's such a strong presence of tradition. Many Muslim countries are like this. Morocco is well known. Strong tradition. That's unfortunate. Seek Allah's help, you'll find out. You'll find a way in any time.
Ishaq Norwala, San Diego, California. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Many people take advantage of credit card points and reward programs, cashback, airline miles, etc. Is this permissible? Jazakallahu khairan.
Questions from San Diego with regards to reward points from credit cards, etc. Obviously, we know the rulings of using credit cards. That's a discussion, whether it's permissible or not. We don't have to get into that. The person is using the credit card. Bottom line, is it permissible for you to use those rewards? Regardless of the ruling of the credit card, like we just said, no one we're saying credit cards are halal. Regardless of the ruling, you're using it. Can you take the rewards? The rewards, in Muhammad's opinion, are a means of rewarding your loyalty to the bank. You pay on time or you don't pay on time. I mean, you've been with this bank for this amount of time. And it is severe competition. There are hundreds of banks, all different types of cards, different options, and you're sticking with them. They wish to reward you, and they wish to keep you there with their company. So they give you some type of gift based off of what you spend, so on and so forth. Perhaps there's nothing wrong with that. Inshallah, once again, بغض النظر عن حكم credit card. And you get into the ruling of that if you're using it. Perhaps there's nothing wrong with that. And no matter what you do or how you look at it, one way or another, the system is always going to be a revolving cycle of riba, no matter what. Wallahu a'lam.
Initial OO, London, UK. Please, could you explain what it means to have tawakkul and how to achieve it? May Allah accept your efforts. Ameen.
Questions from the UK with regards to tawakkul. Please explain it. Tawakkul is al-i'timadu wa tafwid. It is reliance and entrusting someone. Putting your reliance in a thing, on a thing, and then using that thing and submitting to it. And there's a difference between the two. If I trust you with all of my money, it doesn't mean I give you the money. It doesn't mean I put you in charge of it. So I trust you. I don't think that you'll steal my money. I'm going to jail for a couple of years. You have a key to my house. This is where the money is. I trust you. But it doesn't mean it's me giving you the bag of money. Says, here you go. Invest it for me. Take care of my children. Send it to me upstate when I come back. And if you need something, no problem. I trust you and rely upon you. It's a difference. So the servant is to put his trust in Allah and to rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in bringing about good and repelling harm. And it means that you try your best to prepare yourself. Do what you can to prepare, to strategize, to make your plans. Try your best. And once you've exerted everything humanly possible, you submit. You say, I put my trust in Allah. Bismillah. That's what it means in brief. As far as how to obtain it, as we've just explained, try your best, make your plans, seek Allah's help. After that, leave it in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And practice makes perfect. Try it out, inshallah ta'ala. Wallahu alam.
Abdul Hakim, GD, Fort Worth, Texas. Can I consider myself a student of knowledge if all I can afford to do is watch multiple lessons and books on YouTube as I can't travel abroad?
Question from Fort Worth, Texas. Can I consider myself a student of knowledge if all I can do is watch videos online? I cannot afford to travel abroad, so on and so forth. Student knowledge, as we've explained many times before, is a mindset. It's a way of thinking. It's a philosophy. If you have it, no one can take it away from you, whether you travel or have traveled abroad or not. Behavior, and the list goes on. So if you're an ardent viewer of beneficial lessons online, inshallah you're a student of knowledge. But just because you can't travel overseas doesn't mean you can't travel in Texas. You live in Fort Worth, go to Dallas, go to Houston, go to this part, go to that part. You never know. You sit with this sheikh or this teacher or this school. There are many ways of obtaining knowledge, even in the United States. And there are ways of traveling to seek knowledge in the United States, yes. So don't suffice yourself to just overseas if you can't afford it. But Allah knows best.
And it shows AH London, UK. I am a 22-year-old in medical school, 2 years left until I become a doctor. And now I've realized a passion for talab al-ilm, currently memorizing Quran at the 10th juz and enhancing Arabic. What is the best path for me to serve the ummah?
Question from the UK. We've watched someone studying medicine. They have 2 years left to become a doctor, inshallah. But now they have a growing appetite and an increasing passion for talab al-ilm, seeking knowledge. What should they do? Memorizing the Quran, etc. Well, if you really want to be a full-time student of knowledge and a full-time student, then I would say stop studying medicine immediately. Life is short, and on this earth you only have one. You can't do both at the same time. You can be a doctor who's knowledgeable, who's learned, if you're talented enough and you work hard enough, but you can't be a full-time. There's no double full-time. Do you understand what I'm saying? It doesn't work like that, okay? So if you have that much of a passion, then seek that. If you have a passion but you want to still seek medicine and learn medicine and practice medicine, alhamdulillah, study on the side, learn on the side, memorize the Quran, learn Arabic. There's nothing wrong with that. On your vacation time, travel, go a week here, do a month in Egypt. It's not that bad. There's nothing wrong with mixing and matching, but you can't reach the top by doing that. Okay? Allah tells us in the Quran that He has not given a man two hearts in his breast. There's only one. You only have one heart. Everyone understands you only have what?
One heart.
You only have one heart. And looking at the relationship between knowledge and the seeker of knowledge and medicine, you have to look at it like a wife. And Allah clearly tells us, وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّسَاءِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتُمْ. You can never be 101% equally fair to the women if you try. It's going to have one that you're going to feel away or look at away or whatever the case may be. So it can never be two main squeezes. Wallahu a'lam. Everyone understand the metaphor or the simile or the example I'm trying to get across? You can be a knowledgeable person seeking medicine, but it's not the same as you doing it full time. And vice versa. You seeking ilm and medicine on the side. It's not the same. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials JA, Philadelphia, PA. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Will the Muslims be successful? Will the Muslims be successful before the coming of the Mahdi, or are we all just waiting due to the tragedies around the world?
Question is from Philly. Will the Muslims be successful before the coming of the Mahdi, or will the Muslims just continue upon the tragedies and the calamities around the world, etc.? In brief, we have to understand when it comes to al-malahim wal-fitan, these apocalyptic narrations, the end of time, the Dajjal, the Mahdi, al-Taif al-Mansura, al-Firqa al-Najiyah, etc. Alright, many people, they misunderstand these texts. And they take an extreme in comprehending these texts. Alright? And from that, as we've explained in many videos, is the abuse and the misusage of the Firqa al-Najiyah and the Taif al-Mansura, which we've explained in many videos. Alright? We shed light upon this and the explanation of Nasihati al-Hadith, Khatib al-Baghdadi, we're in Minnesota, critical dialogue with Musa Richardson. We discussed this as well. The kalam of the ulama on who is or what is the Taif al-Mansura and the Firqa al-Najiyah. Is it only one group? Is it only one race? Is it only one field of expertise? Is it only in one country? People, they misunderstand this. They misunderstand it, and they think that if the Muslims aren't dominating everything and ruling everything and conquering everything, that the Muslims are doing bad and there's no good and there's no success. And it does not mean that. If it's bad in one country, it's not bad in what? In another country. If it's bad in one city, it's good in another city. And there are different levels of good and bad. If the Muslims are not fighting physically with a sword and a spear, then they're fighting with a pen. If they're not doing this, then they're doing that. Okay, so there's always going to be good in the ummah. There's always going to be a good. There's always going to be a Taif al-Mansura. La tazalu ta'ifatun min ummati mansurin. Always be victorious. One level or another. A lot of them, a little bit of them, but it's always going to be good. It's always going to be good until the end of time. That's the general rule. And just because the Muslims are split up and separated and divided and being killed and killing each other, it doesn't mean that all of them are doing that. And it doesn't mean that there aren't Muslims practicing the Sunnah and implementing the Sunnah and fighting in Allah's cause wherever they are. Okay? So there's always going to be good up until the end of time on one scale or another. That's the qa'idah. لِضَبْطْ هَذِهِ الْأَحَادِيثِ الْوَارِدَةِ. These narrations pertaining to the end of time, the Muslims will be like this, that splitting up, the iftiraq, splitting of the ummah as well. Many people, they abuse these texts. 73 sects, and all 72 of them are in the fire of hell. So therefore, that's an excuse for us to separate. That's an excuse for us to marginalize ourselves. Or just stop practicing because, hey, what's the purpose? 72 out of 73? What type of mercy is that? 73 groups, and all 72 are in the fire of hell except for one. So therefore, why even try? So therefore, why even, that's wrong. You have to understand that that's not proper. Wallahu a'lam.
KA Manchester, UK. Do you believe taqleed is haram, Mufti?
Question comes from Manchester, UK. Do you believe that taqleed is haram? I believe that taqleed, as many great scholars have said, kalmaita, is like carrion. It's like an animal that's been hit, roadkill, we call it in the United States. I don't know what they call it in Manchester. In America, we call it roadkill. An animal that's been hit by a car, a deer on the side of the road. It dies from the impact. It was not slaughtered properly. It's haram to eat. It's impermissible to eat. It's foul. But if that's the only thing that you have to eat, there's no other way, and you're going to starve to death, it's permissible to eat. That's what I believe about taqleed, that it is haram fil asl. It is unlawful unless it is necessity. And necessity could be lack of time, the necessity because the person doesn't have the ability, whatever the case is. From the greatest, and Allah that I've seen to talk about taqleed is Ibn Hazm, rahimahullah, in Muhalla. And he talks about everybody has to use their brain on one level or another. And you ask someone about the ruling of Allah and His Messenger. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ يعني فَاسْأَلُوهُمْ عَنْ حُكْمِ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Ask them about the ruling of Allah and His Messenger. Not ask them about their opinions and their feelings. You understand? So therefore, taqleed, many people, they misunderstand it. There are people who force it upon the people, and we've said this many times before, and exposing these people, falsely monopolizing the way of the Salaf and calling themselves Salafis, Salafiyun, and they are from the ugliest of people when it comes to taqleed. Everything about them is based off of taqleed. And it's not taqleed it's taqleed to one scholar, or one group, or one jahil ignoramus that hasn't studied overseas. Alright? That's not the way of the Salaf, and those people from that aspect are not following the Salaf at all. They are the Hizbiyun and Ahlul Bid'ah and the Mubtadi'ah, them, because that's not the way of the Salaf. To worship somebody and to force the people to make that taqleed, and then taqleed a'ma, muta'assib, baghid, extreme fanaticism for one group, for one scholar, for one country. And as I just mentioned, and I'll say it again, it wouldn't be as bad if the person that they were calling the people to follow was a learned, knowledgeable person. It still would be haram, and it still be bad for them to be fanatics and zealots. But the person that you're saying is the leader of the Salafis in the West, billahi alayk, by Allah, I ask you, where are your scholastic credentials? Tafaddal ya akhi. I don't want to hear this. You're reviling the scholars. You're talking, oh, jazakallahu khairan. All I want from you is a CV where you study. Tafaddal. Tafaddal. What qualifies you to be the leader of the Salafis in the West? And what scholar in his right mind would mandate you the leaders of the Salafis in the West? And then we say the way of the Salaf. Imam Ahmed, how many countries did he travel to see Hadith? Imam al-Bukhari. Where are these narrations at? Sufyan al-Thawri. Huh? So the hypocrisy of the people when it comes to taqleed, and they talk about Hanafis, they talk about Deobandis, they talk about Naqshbandis, and this one and that one, and look at what they do. Alright, so that's one extreme. And then there's another extreme of those who say there's no taqleed whatsoever, and every single layman person is mujtahid. And you don't have to research, just everyone can make their own view, their own opinion, make up their own fatwa, make up their own ruling. That's one. And then we have those who say that 2019, everybody is a mujtahid, and there's nothing but ijtihad. Or those who say there's nothing that comes from the Middle East. Everything we have to produce organically in America. Make up our own rulings and totally discard everything from the traditional fiqh. That's all extremism what? As well. But these people who say that, in most cases, they're not claiming orthodoxy like the first group. And then we have those who are in the middle, that the Muslim is supposed to use his or her brain, his or her mind, and find out the rulings and ask those who they trust. But someone who's a bread maker or a shoemaker or a bottle maker is not like someone who's a student of knowledge. And a student of knowledge is not like an expert student of knowledge. I'm studying for years. And an expert student knowledge is not like someone who's an actual scholar. And a scholar is not like someone who's a senior scholar. They're different what?
Different levels.
Different levels, huh? Wallahu a'lam.
FK, London, UK. Salam Mustaf. My question is regarding the Ahmadiyya Qadiani movement. How should we respond to them and call them to Islam? Perhaps you could make a video on this issue.
Where's the question from?
London, UK.
Question from London regarding Ahmadiyya Qadianiyya. What do we say to them? How do we respond to them? How do we make da'wah to them, so on and so forth? Maybe we can make a video about it. Tayyip. Inshallah, maybe we can make a video about it. At the end of the day, the Aqidah of Islam is true and straight. Straight and true. Clear and plain. What the Aqidah of Islam is and what the Aqidah of Islam is not. Anyone who goes against that clear and plain Aqidah is either going to be a disbeliever or they're going to be clearly astray. One of the two, and the sweeter of the two is still bitter. So therefore, anyone who goes against the Kitab and the Sunnah, you call them with the Kitab and the Sunnah. You debate with them with the Kitab and the Sunnah. In general and in detail. Jumlatan wa tafsilan. These are the general principles of the Kitab and the Sunnah and the Aqidah of Islam, the politics of Islam, jihad in Islam, whatever the issue is. And these are the tafsilat, the specifics. Is there a prophet after this one? Can we say this? Can we say that? Why can that? وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. Fight with them with the what? In the best manner. وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. Allah says fight them with it in a strenuous way. So it's that simple. And as Shaykh Mubil rahimahullah ta'ala said in the introduction to a book that a student wrote, he says, talking about the Kitab and the Sunnah, فَهُمَا الْكَفِيلَانِ. He says that the Kitab and the Sunnah are sufficient to refute any falsehood. Kitab and Sunnah. There's no special, exotic way of refuting Ahmadiyya, Qadianiyya, except for what? Qala Allah, Qala Rasulullah. That's it. That's the 1-2 punch that will knock them out and knock out anyone else, if it's thrown properly. Wallahu a'lam.
Kidder Nasser, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Is it permissible for a married sister to wear a gold ring if the culture of the people rings are indicators of marriage, as in they really notice it? The ring is simple and not show-offy.
Sister?
Yeah.
Right. Questions from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. Wearing a gold ring for a sister who's married. It's the culture and it signifies that she's married. It's simple and it's not show-offy, etc. I don't know what you mean, wearing it in public without gloves on versus wearing it in the house, hijab, etc. Or is he asking about a wedding ring, engagement ring? Allahu A'lam, the specifics of the question. There's more than one answer for that. Allahu A'lam.
MS, UK, London. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. I was wondering if you could tell us how your PhD is going. Where are you pursuing your PhD?
A question from where?
UK, London. London, UK.
London, UK. We asked this question a while back. We gave the same answer with regards to the progress or the update on the PhD. No progress and no update at the moment. Inshallah, as soon as we have one, we'll inform you. Give you the glad news. Inshallah.
Kidder Nasser, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Is it mandatory for a nafka for the wife to be monetary, as in monthly allowances?
Question with regards to nafaqa. Does it have to be monetary with regards to monthly allowances for one's wife? It depends on what the wife needs. If you provide her with the food, the water, the drink, the transportation, the clothes, whatever she needs, and without giving her no money, then that's one thing. But in most cases, she's going to need and want some money as well. This is what I need to survive. This is what I need to make my life comfortable. And she's going to want some spending money as well. And of course, this is all based off of your means as a man. As the Quran clearly states. Wallahu a'lam.
KA, Manchester, UK. Why did Imam Muslim not present his work on Hadith to Al-Bukhari while he finished compiling his Sahih 25 years before Al-Bukhari's death? Was he scared Al-Bukhari would find something?
Okay. Question comes from
Manchester, UK.
Why didn't Imam Muslim present his book to Imam al-Bukhari? Even though the question says the book was finished before Bukhari died, was he afraid that Bukhari would find fault in it, etc.? Allah surely knows best. A difficult question to answer. Imam Muslim did not present his book to every single alim of hadith. There are certain narrations. There were certain scholars that he presented the book to. Certain scholars, and not all of them. There were hundreds of Aimah of Hadith and Ilal during his time. They did not read his book, so on and so forth. So it's not a mandatory condition that he didn't show Bukhari because he was afraid. La. No. La yalzam. Imam Muslim was a mujtahid. Imam Muslim did not blindly follow Imam al-Bukhari. He respected him, he learned from him, he was his friend, but he was his own scholar in his own right. And he had his own technique and his own style. So, it's la yalzam. Al-Muhim, there were scholars who criticized things in their books, and there were scholars who agreed with them. It makes no difference. Wallahu a'lam.
Assalamu alaikum Mufti. UK from Durham, North Carolina. May Allah bless you. How does an aspiring seeker of ilm balance between being sincerely and actively participating and also being humble with praises? Jazakallah khair.
Tayyib. Question is from Durham, North Carolina. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you as well. How does a student of knowledge balance between being humble and sincere and participating and being active and so on and so forth? There's no contradiction between the two. There is no the sword is mightier than the pen and the sword are one. There's no difference between the two. Just because you're being active, you're giving classes, you're on people, that does not negate humility, and that does not negate ikhlas. And anyone who told you that has lied to you. You can stand in front of 1,000 people and be sincere, and you can stand in front of one person and show off. There's no contradiction between the two. You check your intentions, and that's it. You work on your intentions, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are. That's it. Wallahu a'lam.
Khidr Nasser, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Is it permissible to use money to buy credits in a third-party app to purchase something using that app's credit instead of cash? Kind of like a deposit or prepaid system.
Read the question.
Khidr Nasser, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Is it permissible to use money to buy credits in a third-party app to purchase something using that app's credit instead of cash? Kind of like a deposit or prepaid system.
Okay. Question from Kuala Lumpur from my brother Khidr Nasser. Using cash to buy credits and then using a third-party app, so on and so forth. I have to see the specifics of it. It's not that simple of an issue, okay? Because we have the concept of sarf, all right? And the old concept of sarf versus the new concept of sarf, changing money over, gold, silver, so on and so forth, products and commodities. I have to see the specifics of it. So inshallah, Khidr, if you could email me or WhatsApp me the specifics, and let me look at it specifically. Wallahu a'lam.
Minneapolis, MN. WRWB. What is the correct hijab for a woman? Is an abaya okay?
Questions from Minneapolis. The correct overgarment for a woman or hijab for a woman is an abaya okay? What's important is that it has no specific way. Saudi style, Somali style, Yemeni style, American style, as long as it fits the general principles. And in life, it's a capital mistake to micromanage people and things. All right? Give the broad instruction. And that's the concept of hijab. Broad instruction. Loose, not like this, not like that, and that's it. You figure out the rest. You wouldn't let it be like this, be like that, you figure it out. As long as it's not fitting your body, it's not perfumed, it's not showing your charms, etc. All right? Whatever country it's from, as long as it is loose, it is modest, and it is not tight. Not tight on the arms, not tight on the feet, not tight on the legs, not tight on the neck, etc. Whether it's an abaya, Saudi abaya, whether it's a Somali kimar, whatever style or way it is. As long as it falls under the broad instructions of the Kitab and the Sunnah with regards to the hijab shar'i. Wallahu a'lam.
Initial ZW, Jonesboro, Georgia. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. Would my 14-year-old son qualify as a good mahram to go to Hajj with me next year, inshallah?
Question from Jonesboro, Georgia. Would my 14-year-old son qualify as a good mahram for traveling with me to go make Hajj? Inshallah ta'ala, as long as he is Rashid, he's not a fool. And obviously that's relative and subjective. There's some grown men that are foolish. But he understands that he's a teenager, not just a little kid anymore. And he understands the basic principles of being alone and danger and things like this. Inshallah, he's physically strong enough to ward off any harm or danger. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala.
Initials AA, Miami, Florida. A person buys an item, signs an agreement to pay for it monthly, and has to pay a leasing fee. Is the leasing fee riba?
Repeat the question.
Initials AA, Miami, Florida. A person buys an item, signs an agreement to pay for it monthly, and has to pay a leasing fee. Is this leasing fee a riba?
The leasing fee is reoccurring or just one payment? We have to find out. There's a difference between something that you keep paying or the fee once you just pay once. There's a difference between the two.
Initials AS, Watford, UK. Assalamu alaikum. How do you feel about the University of Medina's online platform that I've heard of? Jazakallah khairan.
Repeat the question again, please.
Initials AS, Watford, UK. Assalamu alaikum. How do you feel about the University of Medina's online platform, if heard of? Jazakallah khairan.
Questions from Watford, UK. How do you feel about the Islamic University of Medina's online platform? If you've heard of it or seen it, Jazakallah khairan. I'm unfamiliar with it. I don't know. But if it's from the Islamic University of Medina, inshallah, it's going to have some good in it. If not, a lot of good. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials KA, Manchester, UK. Is the madhab of Ahlul Hadith dead? The fiqhi madhab.
The what madhab?
Fiqhi.
The fiqhi madhab?
Fiqhi madhab, that's what he said.
Repeat the question again, please.
Initials KA, Manchester, UK. Is the madhab of Ahlul Hadith dead? The fiqhi madhab.
Oh, is it dead? Okay. Question is from Manchester. Is the madhab of Ahlul Hadith, al-madhab al-fiqhi, is it dead? No, it's not dead. As long as there are students of Hadith that are learning and practicing it and deducing and extracting, then it's alive. As long as Imam al-Bukhari's book is being read and studied and explained and translated, it's going to be alive. As long as there's Fath al-Bari, it's going to be alive. And Tamheed of Muwatta, Malik is going to be alive, etc. And that's why some of the Salaf would say, Ilm al-Rajul waladuhu al-Mukhallad. They say a man's knowledge is his immortal son. His son that never ever dies. His name and legacy will live on forever. So as long as these books are around and there are people reading them and studying them, it will never be dead. Are they the minority? Are they low, small in number versus the traditional madhabs? The pomp and the arrogance of this qadi and this faqih and this and that, they may not have that. But it will always be alive in the lifetime.
Initials MA, London, UK. Assalamu alaikum. May Allah bless you, Mufti. Ameen. Is it permissible to use an animal silhouette as a brand logo?
Tayyib. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you as well. Questions from the UK. An animal silhouette with regards to a brand logo. It's best to avoid. It's best to avoid. However, it's a silhouette. It's not necessarily 3D. It's not 2D. Hopefully it doesn't have no eyes on it. The only problematic thing would be, someone could possibly say, is the connection of the head to the neck and the neck to the torso. But if it's just a silhouette and there's no eyes, no face, perhaps there's nothing wrong with that. And it depends where the logo is as well. It depends where it is and how big it is. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials MF, Staten Island, New York. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What can one say to a friend who was a Muslim but now says they believe that God exists but doesn't believe in Islam?
Questions from Staten Island. There's a friend who left Islam. Allah protect us from that. They still believe in the existence of God, but they don't believe in the teachings of Islam. Try to speak to that old friend and try to ask them what made them make this decision. Oftentimes, not all of the time, but oftentimes when people leave Islam, it's based off of a personal reason. In most cases, somebody accepts Islam and they encountered severe racism in the mosque. I'm a Dominican. I accepted Islam. I went to the Palestinian masjid and they were discriminatory against me. A black American accepts Islam. He went to the Bangladeshi masjid or Guyanese masjid. And they, what happened? The brother, he had on a white thobe and a white kufi. Another brother had on a white thobe and a kufi with a big, huge beard. And the Guyanese brother walks up to him and gives him pamphlets on who Jesus was. It was an utmost slap in the face. This is a true story. It happened to me once. My first time in Queens, New York. Came back from, I just graduated the College of Hadith. I just graduated College of Hadith. It was 2019. I was coming here for the summer to work here in this masjid, back when everything was all good and stuff. Everybody was together. So, my brother-in-law came to pick me up from the airport. It was Talut. Yeah, Tola has a real big beard, huge, gigantic black sajda mark on his forehead. We were looking for a masjid to pray Asr in. I just got out of JFK. I literally came off the plane from Medina. He's coming, beard, thobe, kufi, everything. So we went to Abidin. We put in Google to look for masjid. Wow, true story. So we walk into the masjid. We don't know anybody. This is my first encounter with Guyanese Muslims. Seriously. So we're waiting to use the bathroom, and a brother comes up. Of course, the brother, he doesn't have a beard, he doesn't have his pants or beliefs. I'm not trying to say nothing bad about Abidin or Guyanese people. I'm just telling the story as it is. If that's my sin, then I'm a sinful person. He walks up to us. He doesn't say assalamu alaikum. He says, here you guys go. He gives us pamphlets on what? Who is Jesus? I mean, is it me? Looking at it, I mean, is that disrespectful or what? What do you think, Sheikh Yusuf? Yani, who was Jesus? You guys need to learn what?
Who Jesus
Who
was.
Jesus was, It's almost disrespect. So a person, they may go through these things in the next year. There are other terrible stories as well of different races, whatever the case may be. Or a woman is married to a brother and the brother beats her up, he cheats on her, he gives her STI, he gives her children, he leaves her, whatever happens. They go through a traumatic experience and it caused them to leave Islam. Or they were raised as a Muslim, born and raised from Pakistan, born and raised from Tunis or Egypt, wherever they come from. And they were wronged, they were oppressed, all right? They were traumatically beaten or abused or whatever, and they leave Islam later on. So oftentimes people that leave Islam because of personal reasons and not because of the actual faith and conviction. And that's the spark, that gets them to have doubts and drift and eventually leave Islam. So ask that person, maybe they need help, maybe they need therapy, maybe they need to be talked to, or maybe an actual shubha. They may have a doubt about something that they heard from YouTube or from a college professor, all right? Or unfortunately maybe a girlfriend or boyfriend. If you want to be with me, you gotta be Christian. You want to marry me, you gotta be a Christian. She's a beautiful woman, but can't be a Muslim and be with me. And he may, a'udhu leave Islam because of that. So you gotta talk to this old friend and see why they left Islam. Personal reason, religious reason, and talk to them and try your best to get to them. To the best you can. Make dua for them and that's it. Laysa alaykum hudahum. You can't guide them if Allah wants them to be astray. That's the bottom line. Wallahu a'lam.
Initials SE, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. Can you be sad about things not turning out the way you wanted to, but still be pleased with Allah's decree at the same time, or do they contradict each other?
Right. Question from Kuala Lumpur. Is it okay to be sad about how things turn out, but you're still pleased with Allah's qadr? Yes, it's possible. And there's a difference between al-qadr wal-maqdur. The ulama understand, they say al-qadr shay wal-maqdur shay. The qadr is the act of Allah decreeing, ordaining, creating, writing, making, and willing. You're pleased with that. رَضِيتُ بِاللَّهِ رَبًّا. I'm pleased with Allah as my Lord, my Khaliq, my Ma'bud, so on and so forth. But the maqdur, the specific thing that took place, my mother dying, my son dying at a young age, suffering in a hospital bed, you don't necessarily have to be pleased with that thing. But you're pleased with the concept that you accept the concept of Allah decreed. And the levels of rida versus sabr versus shukr of the qadr. So it's detailed. What's important is sadness is a human emotion, and it's permissible to be sad certain times, and other times a Muslim has to fight himself, make jihad al-nafs against these emotions. So it depends on what it is, and there's no contradiction between the two. You can be pleased with Allah Azza wa Jal and be sad about something. It can happen. It can happen. Allahu Akbar.
Initials MF, Staten Island, New York. Can one wipe over the head with a scarf on during wudu?
Question is from Staten Island. Can one wipe over
Over the head with a scarf.
over the head with a scarf? This is his sister. Some of the ulama have allowed this. But hopefully there's nothing wrong with that, inshallah ta'ala.
Initials AB, Toronto, Ontario. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I had a discussion regarding Aqidah with a brother about Athari, Ash'ari, Maturidi, etc. And he says that Ash'aris are very similar but use logic. Can you please elaborate, as this has confused me?
Right. Questions from Toronto with regards to a debate that someone had regarding Aqidah, or what they say, theology. Ash'ari, Maturidi, and Athari. And my friend said that the Ash'aris are very similar to Ahl al-Hadith or the Atharis, but they just use logic, so on and so forth. Can you please explain? We've explained this many times before. We've spoken on this issue. And I will say in brief, is that who said that the athletes don't use logic? Who said that? The Quran and the Sunnah is full of logic from beginning to end. Verse after verse, hadith after hadith, Allah and His Messenger command us to use logic. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Allah says, don't you have any aql? لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. They have hearts with which they don't understand. The Quran and Sunnah teach us and tell us about logic. But the problem is your specific definition of what logic is and isn't. What is logic? Aql, or some type of set or set of rules and principles that are foreign to Islam, foreign to the Arabic language, foreign to the proper fitrah, which people call philosophy or theology. What do you mean by logic? Using the brain? Ahlul Sunnah, we use our brains. There's no doubt about that. But do we use our brains before the Kitab and the Sunnah? Do we put our brains on the level of the Kitab and the Sunnah? Do we take the way that we're supposed to use our brains from Romans and Greeks and Persians and Egyptians of shirk and kufr? That's the difference now. Everyone understand this? So that's not true. The Athari Aqidah is logic in it as well. But it depends what you mean by logic and what level of logic. It's like salt and pepper in food. Salt and pepper in food. You want a lot of salt or a little bit of salt. But there's some salt that's needed in the broth versus the broth being very salty. Everyone understand this? It's a difference. That's first and foremost. Secondly is, just because the Ash'ari or Maturidi madhab is similar to the Athari madhab of Aqidah, it doesn't mean that it's the same. Nor does it mean that it's correct. Some could be similar, but still what? Different. Everyone understand this? At the end of the day, the best piece of advice that I can give you is to read history, as we've explained. You want to know about these madhabs, where they come from? Read history. Where does Ahlul Hadith get their Aqidah from? What philosopher came? What madhab? Who started it? Tafaddal. Was it Imam Ahmed? Was it Ibn Taymiyyah? Or was it other than that? Where did Maturidi come from? Why is it called Maturidi? Ash'ari. Where does the name come from? Where does it come from? Who was Abu Hasan Ash'ari? Who was he? Where did he study? Where did he learn from? How many years was he upon this? And then you'll find the clear answer of what it is and what it isn't. I mean, understand this? It's just that simple. You want to know what's in a thing. Is it organic or not? Turn it around and look at the ingredients. That's it. Nothing else. This has 2 paragraphs of ingredients for a candy bar, and this has 5 words. You tell me which one. It's just that simple. So read about the foundations of these madhabs and where they come from. And the answer is clear. You need this from Ibn Taymiyyah, or Ahmed, or Ibn Abdul Wahab, or Ibn Baz, or Albani, or no others. Just read it yourself. And then you'll find out where the Ash'ari madhab comes from. And where the Maturidi madhab comes from, and where the what? Athari madhab comes from. And inshallah you'll find out what's correct and follow it, hopefully. Wallahu a'lam.
Assalamu alaikum, TV from Georgia, USA. Would you marry a sister older than you? May Allah reward you.
Tell you. Questions from Georgia. Would you marry a sister that's older than you? The Prophet ﷺ, he married women that were what?
Older than
him. We can't compare it to the Prophet ﷺ. There's nothing wrong with marrying an older sister. There's no shame in that. Huh? Wallahu a'lam.
He wasn't the Prophet.
Fadl.
Abu Abdullah from East New York. We were taught that the translation of the kalima is no deity has the right to be worshipped except Allah, but you have translated it differently. Can you please explain it?
Tight. Questions from East New York. We have been taught that the translation of the kalima is that there's no deity who deserves to be worshipped or deserves to be worshipped by Allah, and you've translated it differently. Jazakallah khairan. There's a huge difference between translation and interpretation. The word for word translation of La ilaha illallah is there is no God but Allah. There's no deity of Allah. I don't think 2 people can differ on that's the translation. La ilaha illallah. Amma ma'naha, the meaning of the kalima, the interpretation of the kalima, that's a different story. ذلك بأن الله هو الحق وأن ما يدعون من دونه الباطل. It's a different story. The tafsir of it, okay? So there's a difference between tafsir and interpretation, and there are many brothers who, in the history of Islam in America and the different Dawah movements in America, they came and they changed things and altered things that didn't necessarily need to be changed and altered. The meaning of the kalima is there's no God but Allah. And if you wanted to break it down to an even more basic thing, we'll say there's no God but God. Allah is God, Almighty, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's no God, meaning there's no deity, no ma'bud. But لا معبود بحق إن الله وغير الله إن عبد فبباطل. That's not necessarily the what actual word for word translation of it. So there's a huge difference between the two, guys. Everyone understand this? What's important is not to get caught up in this way of wording it, and that what is the content. Is that Allah Azza wa Jal deserves to be called upon, feared, loved. Allah Azza wa Jal is the one we pray to, fast for, give zakat for, fight in His cause. Allah Azza wa Jal is the one whom we mention with our hearts, our tongues. He is the one that we love and devote ourselves to, alone without any partner. Wahdahu la sharika lah. In anything, prophet, messenger, angel, saint, wali, besides Allah, if it's worship, then it's what?
False.
False. That's period. That's simple. There's no need to overcomplicate things.
Initials JN, Fort Wayne, Indiana. What's your advice to a 20-year-old brother who wants to create a GoFundMe page to help support himself to travel to seek knowledge? Do you advise against this other option?
Right. Inshallah, perhaps this will be our last question tonight. What advice do you give for a young brother who wants to travel overseas and he wants to start a GoFundMe page, so on and so forth? Yeah, if you don't have the need for that, or if there's not a great need of people for that. And what I mean by that is you can have the money yourself or get it from somewhere else, or there are people asking you to do it. Okay, so let's take for example, HadithDisciple, GoFundMe. There are several people, even to this day, who are very, very, very pressing and aggressive to make a GoFundMe page, make a Patreon thing. We have to, Sheikh. Please, please, give us the ability to support you. Give us the ability to give back. This is for years, brothers have been saying this, and finally we made one. Everyone understand this? So you find a lot of people, they find a need for them to have an outlet to support you. Or you yourself have the need, or maybe even what?
Yeah.
Both. If you don't need it, that's the best thing to do. Do without is always best. Okay? That's always best. But if you want to go overseas, and there are people that will support you and will help you out, just make sure that you're responsible with that money, though. Because money is green and sweet. Money is green and sweet. And Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to look at what you do with that money. Wallahu a'lam, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.